Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to use optionals. This function is used when it is necessary to separate the rate for some services out from the main rates for any one of a number of reasons. For example, if you want to give the client a choice between different categories of car hire, or for expensive items like flights that are best shown separate. Also, if there are services that not all members of the group may want to participate in, either in the course of the itinerary, such as 4x4 game drives, or in the case of an extension after the itinerary. To use the function, an optional must be created and linked to one or more services. Click on Rate Setup. Optionals are most often used along with the invoice package rate function, so we will consider this scenario first. To create an optional, enter the heading, for example, Extension Hermanus, and click Save. Table mounted cable car, and click Save, and Flight Durban Cape Town, and click Save. Note that as the optional is created, it is automatically linked to the default packs list. If it is expected that the whole group will participate in the optional, for example for a flight, keep the default packs list linked to the optional. If a specific passenger list is required because the number of passengers or room configuration will be different, it must be created and linked to the optional. First, go to Passenger List. Click New. Enter a heading that will make it easy to identify, for example, Extension Hermanus. Click Submit. Add the required number of rooms, select the passengers, and click Submit. Click New again. Enter a heading, Table Mountain. Click Submit. Add the required number of rooms, select the passengers, and click Submit. Return to Rate Setup and select the passenger list created for each optional. All the services linked to an optional must be linked to the same passenger list. To ensure this coherence, the passenger list linked can only be changed in Rate Setup. There are different ways to link services to an optional. A service already in the service basket can be linked to the optional. Click on Service Basket, find the service, for example the flight Durban Cape Town. Click and select the optional you want. Confirm the change. In the service basket, note that the service is now linked to the optional. To add a new service directly linked to the optional, in the search engine, find the required service, for example Table Mountain, select and add. Select the optional required and confirm Add to Basket. In the service basket, note that the service is added as linked to the selected optional. On the reference, note that the optional is automatically linked to the packs list linked to the optional. It is also possible to create and link an optional at the same time as adding the service. In the search engine, find the required service, for example a flight from Cape Town to Johannesburg. Select and add. Tick New Optional, enter a heading, and confirm Add to Basket. In the Service Basket, note that the service is added as linked to the selected optional. In Rate Setup, note the new optional added, automatically linked to the default packs list, but this can be amended if necessary. There is no limit to the number of services that can be linked to an optional. For example, if some passengers from a group want to add an extension to their itinerary, all the relevant services can be linked to one optional. For example, Extension Hermanus. Find the service needed and add, select the optional, and confirm, repeating until all the required services have been selected. In the service basket, note that the services have been added, all linked to the same optional. It might happen that a group needs to be split amongst different hotels because no single hotel can confirm the rooms required. In such a case, in Passenger List, Create a packs list corresponding to the number of rooms confirmed at each hotel. For example, Misty Hills, 10 doubles, and Indaba, 10 doubles and 4 singles. Then, in Rate Setup, create an optional for each hotel. Misty Hills and Indaba, linking each optional to the passenger list created. Then, in Service Basket, link the hotels to the optionals. On the reference, note the different packs numbers. When an optional is something that not the whole group will participate in, always consider what will the remainder of the group be doing during this time. How is this reflected in the project? This is especially relevant when a project is booked or, in any event, once it becomes known who will participate in what. For example, if on confirmation the client advises that 2 out of the 6 packs will do the Hermanus extension, obviously a passenger list must be created and linked to the extension accordingly. But consider as well, what will this mean for the rest of the itinerary? If the extension clients will be transferred to Hermanus when the other clients fly to Johannesburg, then the extension clients will not be on that flight, meaning a packs list needs to be created that excludes the extension passengers and linked to the optional as well. To do this, in Passenger List, create the necessary packs lists, Hermanus for the 2 passengers that will do the extension, and Flight for the remaining 4 passengers. In Rate Setup, link the passenger list to the optionals. Similarly, if it is confirmed that only 3 of the 7 passengers will be doing the 4x4 game drive, what does this mean for the rest of the itinerary on that day? Should a packs list be created and linked to the game drive that the other 4 passengers will be doing? If this is necessary, then an optional must be created as well, as the packs list cannot be linked to the service directly. In Rate Setup, the rates for the optionals are displayed along with the other package rates. The rate totals all the services linked to the optional. The packs numbers come from the passenger list linked to each optional. In Detailed Rates, optionals are displayed along with the other services, with the optional heading indicated in brackets after the service. At the bottom of Detailed Rates, the first total are those for services included, followed by the totals per optional. It is possible to select a specific optional to see only the services linked to that optional, for example, for Hermanus. This is possible on all the tabs. When a project is set to invoice detailed rather than package rates, it is still possible to use optionals to separate some rates out from the main list of rates. This might be necessary because the rates are expensive and should be highlighted, for example for flights, or to give a choice, for example for different categories of car rental, or to group together certain services, for example 2 car rental legs. Whatever the case, it only affects the display of the rates in the detailed quote. Optionals are still linked to services in the same way. Note though that if there are multiple passenger lists for a project, for example if the passengers have a double and a single at one hotel, and a triple at another, the passenger lists are created and, in Service Basket, directly linked to the hotel. As long as invoicing is based on detailed rates, the passenger list can be linked to the services directly. It does not have to be linked via an optional. On the itinerary, by default, optionals appear in the order in which they were created. This can be amended, for example, to display them in alphabetical or chronological order, or to show first those that will be done by the entire group. To amend, in Rate Setup, click on the up arrow to change the position. On the itinerary, note the change. If an optional is not linked to any service, it can be deleted in Rate Setup, for example the extension Hermanus. Click on the red cross to delete. If an optional is linked to a service, it cannot be deleted. The red cross is not available. First, delete the service in Service Basket, for example, Table Mountain. Then, in Rate Setup, delete the optional. Or, if the service is still needed but no longer as an optional, in Service Basket, unlink the service from the optional. Then, in Rate Setup, delete the optional. And that is it. Thank you for watching.